I got to be honest, I don't think the Boston Celtics, I don't think they got better, JD. I really don't. I think that you gave up a guy in Marcus Smart who obviously is not even close to as talented as Kristaps Porzingis. He's not, and that's fine. But you gave up this guy who was a good locker room presence, who was an amazing defender, okay, and understood how to play winning basketball in the postseason. And you lost Grant Williams. That guy also knows how to give you winning basketball plays in the postseason. I think that when they lost Ime Udoka as their head coach, they completely just threw away their defensive juggernaut identity, which is what got them to the finals to begin with, was how hard everyone was playing defense and how accountable everyone was on the defensive end. They were menaces. Like it was terrible to play Boston. And they have switched to this 3-point identity where they're just going to chuck up threes. Like Joe Mazzulla is the kind of coach where he obviously favors offensive production over a defensive mentality. And that obviously aligns with what Brad Stevens wants for the team as well. I just don't know if Kristaps Porzingis is that guy. In fact, it's not that I don't know or don't think. Like, I know that this guy isn't the guy. He's not. Like, look, I like his production last year for the Wizards. I thought it was fantastic. But if we look at this dude's career, okay, he's been in the league 8 years. He's been an all-star once. He's played 61% of his regular season games. That, to me, is kind of alarming. While he does stretch the floor pretty well, career, 35% three-pointer. Or 35% from three, right? That's not too bad. It's pretty good for a big man. What really alarms me about this guy is the fact that in his entire career, he's played 10 playoff games. This guy's been in the league for 8 years, and he has played 10 playoff games. That's it. The Boston Celtics have no idea if this guy can even stay in shape for a postseason because he's never really been in a postseason, not in the trenches like Boston has been. I think that their plan to obviously make him the third option. I just don't think that this is a stat sheet basketball. Okay, you can't take this guy's production off of a team like the Wizards and think it's going to translate over to the Celtics. This guy is not going to be touching the ball nearly as much. Another issue I have is, Derek White is now your full-time point guard. So I hope this guy is up to playing 35 minutes a game over the next 82 games.
They still have Brogdon.
Brogdon's hurt, man. From what I've heard, he's hurt too, to the point where it's so bad. Yeah. So when the 3-team trade was supposed to go down, the Clippers were a part of that, and they wanted Malcolm Brogdon. And his physicals came back, and they were so bad that the Clippers pulled out and said, no, we're good. And that's when Boston and the Wizards went to Memphis to get everything done, because Memphis said, yeah, okay, we'll do this with you. But Malcolm Brogdon's hurt, man. Something is not right there. So that kind of scares me. Robert Williams is always hurt. Like Al Horford is getting up there in age. Kristaps Porzingis is injury prone. And his offensive production in the playoffs is not very good. The last 7 games he played versus the Clippers, which was just a couple years ago, let's remember this. This dude shot 29% from 3 and averaged 13 points and like 6 rebounds next to Luka Doncic. Okay, I just don't have the faith in this guy who, for the first time in 6 years, has played over 60 games. Like, I don't know, man. I just don't think he's that piece. I think that the Celtics got worse. They might be an okay. I mean, they'll probably still be in the top 4 in terms of regular season. But this guy is not going to make them better.
Well, how far are they going to go next season?
Probably the second round. Honestly, I don't think they get past the second round. I just don't think Porzingis is that guy, man.
And you think that with Marcus Smart, they'd be in the finals?
No, I don't. But I don't think that they're going to be in the finals with Porzingis either. Like, not at all. That guy can't even play in the playoffs. We barely seen him play in 8 years, 10 playoff games. Marcus Smart has 60 under his belt.
I mean, Doc, I get your point here. And in fact, I think coming into this, I was more of a skeptic, but I think you brought in a lot of good points about his efficiency, about his injury status over the years. However, Kristaps Porzingis, as you mentioned earlier, is probably the better player between the two.
Yes, talent-wise, absolutely.
Not only is he going to be able to stretch the floor better, but he's going to make them have a legitimate center. And I do think Malcolm Brogdon will most likely be back. I mean, obviously, I don't know the extent of the injury. This is a little bit of news to me. But here's the thing. When you add Porzingis to a team like this, Porzingis is very reminiscent in my mind to Lauri Markkanen. Now, the Utah Jazz are having Lauri Markkanen play the one, and he's performing quite well, you know?
He may be their first option.
He's coming off, he's the first option for the Utah Jazz, but he's not necessarily like a primary ball handler, and Porzingis doesn't need to be that either. Porzingis will be the third option on the Boston Celtics.
Yes.
And when you don't make somebody like that the first option, I think it reduces the amount of stress made on a body, on the mind of a player, that they're just able to do, what they need to do and be a top performer. I think that Kristaps is going to be performing about the same as he was in Washington. I don't think his numbers are going to dip that much. He was shooting pretty efficiently anyway, coming off one of his best years in his career as well. I think that he's going to perform pretty well. I actually do think that Marcus Smart is good. He was a good mesh with the team, but the Celtics just kept getting to the finals, but they weren't able to get over the edge. They needed something to switch up a little bit. I don't think that they should have broken up Jaylen Brown or Tatum, which they aren't doing as of right now.
Right.
And I like that. I think that those two can still lead a team to the finals or, to the, get a chip. They just need to build a little bit around that. They need to get some additional pieces, tweak some things, and getting somebody like Kristaps Porzingis who doesn't need the ball to win. He can be an off-ball guy. He can be a lob threat. He can be an outside shooter, like a pick and pop guy. And so I like the fit with them as well. And I think that they could most certainly be better than what they were last year.
See, I don't agree, because this guy, he hasn't won anything. Like, yeah, he doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective, but who's passing him the ball? Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum? I love those guys. Both of them are not very good at ball facilitation. Like, that entire team, honestly, sucks at ball facilitation. They just don't really pass the ball the way they should. And I have serious questions about Derek White's cardio, moving him up to the starting position, getting all those minutes. I hope he's ready. He's going to need to be, because he's now their starting point guard, and if Malcolm Brogdon is able to get healthy, like they can cut minutes down, because Malcolm's fantastic. I love that guy, but I just don't see how Kristaps is going to get the ball. Like, this team already has a difficult time of trying to figure out who should be scoring between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I just don't think this is going to work. Talent-wise, I mean, it's a no-brainer. He's way better than Marcus Smart, talent-wise, yeah. But Marcus Smart's a better defender. Grant Williams was a great defender and was a decent three-point shooter, but he could give you some good offensive production as well. This team is going to take a massive dip defensively. And I think if they run into someone like the Knicks, who can play defense and score, I think the Boston's in trouble. I really do.
Well, I can see that.
What about the 76ers? What do you think?
Well, the 76ers look like they're kind of imploding. I mean, we've had the James Harden drama going around the past few months. It even happened before the playoffs. James
Yeah.
Harden, Woj reported that James Harden is likely not to be a 76er player, but he'd be moving to Houston. Looks like that ship has kind of sailed, but James Harden has requested a trade as of like a little bit ago, but it doesn't seem there's really any good trade suitors. At least it doesn't seem like they've, developed a package, or any team rather developed a package big enough for Harden. And I kind of feel for Harden. I kind of don't. Harden took a pay cut this past year to, try and get the 76ers, into contention again, giving them an extra piece. Turns out like it didn't really matter, and now he's not getting the money that he thought he would get this season, so he's reasonably upset. But, not only that, but they nearly lost Paul Reed to the Utah Jazz in the offseason a little bit ago. They had to match the offer, which puts them in a bit of a bind, because if Paul Reed is with the team, he's now guaranteed that contract. And if they make it to the second round, he's making something like, I can't remember how much, but he's guaranteed, over 3 years.
Second and third year.
Yeah, something like 20 million. And I do like him. He's a dog. He's got that mentality in him. But this puts the Sixers over the luxury tax, and they don't even look like a contender. And now we have Joel Embiid saying, I want to win. I'll do whatever it takes to win. I don't know if it's in Philly or not. It's like, what on earth? Seems like everybody's just thinking that the Sixers are imploding. And so it looks like a struggle. It looks like they're kind of dying this offseason.
I feel bad for Joel Embiid, man. I really do. This guy, like Daryl Morey, in my opinion, is just ruining this team. Okay? Like the whole Ben Simmons situation, I can understand why he played his cards the way he did. I got it. Guy doesn't want to play, wants to get traded. We're going to hold out. I mean, it is what it is. But now you have the exact same situation happening with James Harden. Like, dude, the guy suffering here is Joel Embiid. Every single season, this guy takes all this flack because when he shows up to the playoffs, he's tired and he's injured. Yeah, I would be too if I had to put my team on my back the entire season over like 82 games. Like, and now you're going to tell this guy who's one of the best basketball players in the world, hey, champ, we're not even looking at next season. We're looking at the season after that. I'm sorry. Like, I can understand why Joel would be frustrated. I would be frustrated. I think any reasonable human being would be frustrated. This guy is wasting years of his prime with a team that is not structured for winning basketball around him the way it should be. And I think Daryl Morey absolutely is to blame. You soured your relationship with James Harden to the point where he doesn't want to come back. And we know what happens when James Harden gets upset. Okay. All of a sudden he comes into training camp wearing a fat suit. And he starts throwing games. So I'm worried about that, genuinely. At the same token, though, there has to be the understanding that I would assume James Harden realizes that if he pulls that crap like this next year in Philadelphia, if hypothetically he is still there, he's going to be like biting for veteran minimums the rest of his career, and he doesn't want to do that. He's in a position where he has to play the best basketball of his life if he wants to secure any kind of good, decent contract moving forward with another team. So, I mean, if James Harden were to throw a fit in Philadelphia, he would be tanking his own self-interest. I just don't see him doing that. Like, that would be insane to me. But Daryl Morey is the one ruining this team. So hopefully Nick Nurse is able to change a little bit of the schematics and work some magic around Joel Embiid. But honestly, I feel for the guy. I do. Look, George Niang doesn't feel like a major loss, but that guy still is a consistent three-point shooter off the bench. And what's the bench's job? To get you buckets, keep the lead going, and play some decent defense. George Niang does that. He knows his role. He's gone now. James Harden wants to leave. poor Joel Embiid is just sitting there thinking, okay, well, it's me and Tyrese Maxey. We haven't even talked about Tyrese Maxey. We don't know how that dude feels. All of a sudden, the 76ers are like, oh, we're not going to extend this kid. If I'm Tyrese Maxey, I'm a little pissed over that. It's like, okay, why not? What's going on here? What are we saving?
Number 3 option. He did well in the playoffs.
That would sour me a lot if I was Tyrese Maxey. So it just feels like Daryl Morey is creating this really toxic environment, and I absolutely understand why. If Joel Embiid is like, nah, kick rocks, I want to go somewhere else. They lost Jimmy Butler. They chose Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler. That was ridiculous. They took forever to trade Ben Simmons. The James Harden fiasco is now becoming a nightmare. Tyrese Maxey's not getting extended. Like, you're losing bench players who you need to win basketball games. What are you guys doing? What's Daryl Morey doing to this team? He's ruining this team, man. Just not a fan. Not a fan. But who I am a fan of is what the Milwaukee Bucks have done. So I'll tell you this, man. No one's talking about the Bucks, and they should be. Because it was all but last year where all of these, the narrative surrounding the Bucks were, well, is Giannis going to want to extend? What if he wants to leave? Well, what's going to happen? But you know what? Smooth and steady sailing for the Milwaukee Bucks front office. A+, guys. Nice job. You kept Chris Middleton, who you needed, right? You kept Brook Lopez. You got Robin Lopez. And I know and you got Malik Beasley, too, on a veteran minimum, who could be a nice replacement for Joe Ingles off the bench. You kept everyone you needed to. You still have Drew Holiday. You have one of the greatest, if not the greatest player in the world in Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you showed him that you will do and pay whatever it is necessary to keep him there and keep him happy. That is how you run a front office. I love it. I'm all about it. Good job, Bucks. Milwaukee, you killed it. Because if you guys botched this, I'm telling you, Giannis might have started thinking about it. He might have. But they kept everyone they needed to. They still have their core. I'm all about it. What do you think, JD?
Yeah, they are a sleeper winner of the offseason for sure. Just being able to retain all of their players. In conjunction with that, they had some pretty good salary updates too, with Chris Middleton taking less than he expected to, as well as Brook Lopez. Seems like they have a good deal going on there. I mean, they were my favorite this last year until Giannis got injured, and then they ended up losing to the Bucks. But I would say for the most part, the Bucks still are in contention every year for the chip. They have Giannis, and Giannis is just an absolute monster of a player. He's like Jokic. You can assume that Jokic is going to be making it to the finals now. Subsequently, for the years to come, they have the young core. And it seems like the Bucks, they've got their super team in order. As long as Middleton can stay healthy, they seem like they're pretty well off, rather. And they have a lot for their future. I just think that it was really good. It was good for them to maintain all of their guys that they could. And I thought that they were going to be well over the luxury tax, but they had some people cut salaries, and it seemed pretty good to me.
Yeah, masterful moves there. Masterful moves, especially the Chris Middleton move, where, he opted out of his $40 million player option just so you could re-sign him to a more team-friendly deal. Which is still lucrative enough for everyone to be happy. Brook Lopez got his bag. He's playing with his brother again. Malik Beasley's there. Very nice moves.
Thank you for watching another episode of the Full Court Press NBA podcast. For the full podcast, click the link below and subscribe for more hoops content.